Okie doke. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the kickoff call for our 2025 GitLab sponsored Tufts Capstone Advisory Project. Thank you for choosing to fly GitLab Airlines. We're glad to have you aboard. We've got an agenda that you all put together, so I think we should just go through what you've got. Just to give you kind of a sense of how we usually do these things at GitLab and how I think we'll probably do it in this meeting. We do tend to make an agenda for all of our meetings, and we usually do kind of actively take notes as we go through. So if you see me or any of the other team members kind of like looking off to the side, we're looking at the agenda in another tab. So we're not like ignoring it or anything. Um, so let's start at the top. Let's start with some introductions. Students, can we start with you? And I threw in a couple of questions, but there may be other things you want to say or other questions that other members of our team have, just to kind of prompt you with kind of introducing yourself.
Yeah, we also have some slides prepared for you for this meeting, so we can start off with that as well.
Okay, I'll
Sure.
share my
Let's.
screen. Okay.
Or
Sorry, if the slides have intro stuff, then feel free. But if not, then let's kind of do intros and then we can dig into your slides.
We do have intros in our slides, so
Great.
yeah. I'll just share it. Skip to our intro slides.
Yeah, so my name is Moya. I'm the product manager for this role, this project, and I'm an engineering psychology major and economics. And I have prior experience as a product designer for Jumbo Code and a UX UI designer at Krungsri Bank in Thailand for my previous internship. And I'm really excited for this project because I'm really new to like de development platforms and I want to learn more about kind of these platforms and how I can contribute as like a designer. Yeah.
Hi, my name is An, and I'm the product designer for this project. And I'm majoring in engineering psychology and studio art in a combined degree program. And I also minor in engineering management. So, yeah, a lot of interdisciplinary study. I have prior experience being a designer for Jumbo Code as well, working for nonprofits. I also was the UX designer for Sami Health in a previous sponsor project. And yeah, I'm so excited for this project because this will be my first time designing a super technical platform. So I'm so excited for all the challenges of getting to know all these new things that I will learn along the way.
So hi everyone, I'm Julia. And for this project, I'll primarily be the user researcher and content writer. Like on my major is also engineering psychology and studio arts. And for previous experience, I've done a three factors co-op at Johnson Johnson, mainly working on political tools. And then I was also a UX and performance co-op at Draper Laboratory, focused on aerospace and aviation screens. And then also my first internship was a UX design at a telehealth startup.
Yes, and hi everyone. I am Emily. My will be the one of the second user researchers on this project, and I am majoring in engineering psychology. Some of my previous experience consists of being a user researcher and designer role on a previous class project with a company we were working with called EquiBallot. So that was a voter advocacy app that we helped design and research with. I have also previously worked as a data analyst with this other startup company called Career Village, which was a platform that brought career advice to high school students.
I don't know if should I like unshare my screen so we can all see each
Well,
other's
I was about
faces?
to say, why don't we I would like to let you go if you made a slide deck. I would like to let you do the slide deck. But before you go on, let's just introduce ourselves on the GitLab side and then we can dive right back into it.
Yeah.
I can start. I think you have all maybe seen me before this. I'm not sure if all of you were there the first evening of class when people were presenting some stuff. My name is Chad. I work on the UX paper cuts team here at GitLab. We're kind of a specialized like design engineer hybrid team within the UX team, who we do design work, but we also do direct code changes to improve usability, improve accessibility, that sort of thing across the platform. My specialty within that is the plan vertical. That's all of the like product and project planning feature sets in GitLab. So things like issues, epics, commenting, and all of our markdown editing and rich text editing are also underneath that umbrella. So I fix a lot of usability bugs in that area. Basically, it's my day-to-day work. I actually volunteered with this project last year as well, when Gina was running it.
I can go next. You said my name. I'm Tina. I used to go, I went to Tufts, sorry. I graduated in 2018. Um, Also studied human factors, or I guess it was engineering psych, whatever you want to call it, same thing. And I have been at GitLab for 3 years. I started doing this project with Tufts a couple years ago. It's been going really well, so I'm really excited that it's able to continue. I work in on Runner, which is part of our CI/CD features that we have at GitLab. Definitely more of like the technical type of things in the DevOps area. And I still live in Massachusetts, about like an hour outside of Boston. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what you guys want to learn this year and kind of just help you throughout the project. So very excited.
Speaking of CI/CD, I can go next. Hi, I'm Sunjung. I'm based in Berlin, Germany at the moment, and I've been here at GitLab for I think now more than 5 years. So it's quite a long time, and I've been always being a product designer. I've been like supporting multiple teams, but I've been working with Gina directly on the CI/CD team, I think for the past 2 years, right? And yeah, Gina is taking care of the runner feature, and while I'm taking more of a starting point of CI/CD, so that developers starting to making the CI YAML file so that they can build the actual pipeline for their software development. This should be go somewhere, so they're creating those pipeline using the YAML syntax. So I'm mostly taking care of those experience, and yeah, it's my first time participating this program, but I have seen other students work for the past few years. I was super passionate to join the program, but I'm glad that now I have this time for this year to support you and learn together, and we could grow together, right? So yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Am I last but not least
Mhm.
on the GitLab side? All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Dasha Dashkina. I'm the senior product manager here at GitLab for our editor extensions. So my team covers everything in IDE. So think VS Code, Visual Studio, JetBrains, soon Eclipse. And our team brings GitLab functionality into integrated development environments. We extend. So that's everything from platform to AI functionality to anything else that we come out with. It's a really fun space, and I'm also really happy to be here as a PM. I love the fact that you're already thinking through what does product management look like within this, and excited to be a resource. And also, I have a big passion for the cross section of UX and product. I think the two are so complementary, and if you don't have one without the other, you are falling your users short. So I'm really passionate about the space and excited to have you. Chad, over back to you.
Well, I'll give it right back over to Delia since she's sharing her screen, and we can go through the slides you all put together. By the
Okay.
way, I think this is the first time students have come to the kickoff with like a deck, so thumbs up.
Step ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much for all the introductions.
Yeah. Let's see. I guess you already did intros. I think something else we want to go over is like how we want to communicate. Um,
Yeah, I can definitely speak to that. I think a majority of information is kind of stuff that we have already established. So in terms of platforms for communication, it does seem like Slack is the way to go for us. In terms of asynchronous communication, it's the main point of contact, so we can definitely keep up with that. And then we'll also be providing Notion or weekly updates on Notion. And so that will all be linked on our page that we will also be sharing with you guys, as well as the project timeline will also be on there, but we will also talk about that later on in this little slide deck. In terms of main point of contact on our end, we do have Moya as our main point of contact, and her email is here, but it will also be on the Notion, and you can also reach her through Slack or email. And then just to reiterate information, our weekly meetings are going to be on Wednesdays from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern. And we will be sending an agenda before the meeting, as is the norm, and that way we're all on the same page. And then in terms of deliverables, we will be uploading them to a Google Drive folder, and that will also be linked on our Notion page.
Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about our project timeline. Um, Overall, we're like planning to do like end-to-end design process. So starting with like the problem, research, defining and ideating, prototyping, testing, and also iterating to create like a final design, which will be in our final presentation at the end at in around May, like start of May. And we've also have a timeline on our Notion board, like um like example picture, and we will share that Notion board with you guys. We'll have all the important links and with this timeline at the bottom. Yeah.
Let's talk about project selection.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, so we have discussed and come down to the two top main choices of projects that we want to go with. And for each of the project we have a certain questions that we want to ask before we come down to one final project that we want to go with for this semester. So the first project that we are interested in is the Auto DevOps project. So from our understanding, please correct us if we are wrong in any way, but from our understanding from the project proposal, we understand that our DevOps is a set of CI template that helps build, test, scan, and deploy code without any manual work. And there are two sides to this problem. Like from the user, they are confused with the our DevOps and find it challenging to use. And from the business side, they offer so you offer a solution, but it does not currently solve the customer needs. So the main goals, as we understand from the proposal, is to understand the motivation, pain points for using this new technology, and to understand the limitation of the current solution, and to redesign to create a solution that aligns with the customer needs. And the final solution from the proposal is a major revision of our DevOps. But then our questions could be, would there be like any assistance in getting access to users of the our DevOps? And I also wonder what are the main target users for our DevOps?
Mhm. So on the first question, I think there are a couple of answers. One is yes, we have in the past years, like helped students out with recruiting for user research. I also don't know what the current status is on this, but Linda and I spoke before your semester started, and she said that she was trying to get all of the students set up with user testing accounts. So it may actually be the case that we can kind of like advise you on how to use your own user testing account to find people to do kind of unmoderated testing on things. I don't know what the status is on that. You may have more up-to-date information on how that is right now, but we also, we would like to include the user researchers who cover the feature area that we work in at GitLab in this project as well. So we will like hook you up with the user researcher who covers whatever area you work with. You can speak with them. They can give you advice. They can, share templates with you. They can help you with recruiting as well. So yeah, you're not like out on your own to figure it out on that. On the second question, I think I would need to connect you to the PM. So the PM for this area of the product is who proposed this. And I think I would want to connect you with him. He would have more information on his user types, the jobs to be done in his area. I think we probably do have that stuff in the handbook. We have a very extensive handbook. It's got a lot of documentation. It can be kind of overwhelming, but there's a lot of stuff in there. So some of this stuff may actually be documentation you can go find, but I think if you're interested in this project, I'm sure he would love to chat with you. I could probably ping him in our Slack channel, because like anybody else who works at GitLab can see and like come in and comment in the Slack channel that we've got. So I could ping him there to see if he wants to come in and like chat with you in a thread asynchronously. Or he may even be interested in just setting up, a one-on-one with one of you, or like a meeting with him and all of you at a time that would work for all of you.
That sounds good.
I can also just provide like a little background on where the feature is at now, because so we came out with Auto DevOps. So it detects what code is in your repository and then creates kind of like a general pipeline to be able to run it, I guess. It's supposed to enable anyone who might not be familiar with DevOps, like Sanjung was talking about, you have to know how to write in YAML to set up your pipeline. Like this kind of enables people who are not familiar with that to be able to just run it right off the bat. The issue is that we haven't really gone back and like fixed any of the experience since we came out with it. So it's led to a lot of confusion. I'll actually send you a Reddit thread of some of the users who are like, what is Auto DevOps and how do I use it on GitLab? Reddit is a great place to check also, so I'll just put it in chat. But like Chad said, I think the PM will have a lot more info, but hopefully that helps like a little bit.
Also, just to quickly add, from a competitive perspective, if you're looking for kind of, I don't want to say a competitor who we are targeting, is think about GitHub Actions. If you look through how they look through Auto DevOps, that's something similar that we want to do, but obviously GitLab flavored. So if you want to look at how they do it, they have a lot of promo material. I think that'll help you orient as to what the root of the problem is and how they're solving it. Does not mean that's how we want to solve it, but it is a competitor of ours.
Mhm.
Okay, I think that pretty much answered kind of like gist of questions. So we'll move on to our understanding of, or also thank you for answering all those questions as well and providing the additional information. But in terms of looking at the second one of the three projects that we were interested in, which, yeah, just to clarify, we were just looking at two of the three, which the first one being the Auto DevOps and then the second one being the Work Context Navigator. And so from our understanding, we see the problem as that developers use up a lot of time trying to get aligned with the onboarding of a new task, of a new issue that they're assigned to, because of all these scattered discussions and lengthy threads and the decision trails that exist. And so it seems like the goal is to create a navigator that provides these new developers assigned to a task with a visual pathway to understand their assigned work. And the final solution would be this, this essentially this interactive context navigator that can just help them onboard to the new task or new assignment much more easily and get to actually problem solving. And so in terms of our questions, it's kind of similar to questions that we had for the Auto DevOps project, but essentially we're wondering if we would be able to speak with any of your GitLab developers on trying to figure out how they onboard to new issues that you experience with GitLab. And then as well as we were wondering if there was a new product feature or existing kind of, what's it called, any revisions to any existing Work Navigator features that you have currently at all.
So this one was actually proposed by Dasha. So for the second question, I definitely want to let her speak to it. For the first question, similar answer to the other one. Yeah, definitely. We have, I think, also in the past done some like internal user research for this project. So that's fine. We should be able to hook you up with folks for that. But I'll turn it over to Dasha for speaking a bit more to what the project is about.
Yeah. So I've been at GitLab for about a year, and one of the harder parts is we put everything in issues. And if you think about how we have back and forth discussions, different threads, you have kind of almost like a subreddit that is an issue. And one of the harder parts is when you're turning over the work, right, to a developer for execution, they're like, wait, what is the decision? Where are we starting? Is this actually up to date? From an issue perspective. And so this would be a new look as to how you navigate an issue when you're looking at it for the first time. We currently have something in place through our Duo offering, which is our AI offering, where you can summarize an issue, summarize the discussion, but think of this as potentially in the non-AI lens. How can you give users who are potentially not interested in AI a way to do this? So it is a new product feature area from that regard as to how do you navigate an issue and not just throw it into AI and say summarize.
Okay, yeah, thanks. That definitely does give a little bit more context. I think when we were looking at both of the projects, we kind of saw auto DevOps as something that we were something that exists already, and then we're trying to figure out how to improve it. Whereas with this work context navigator, we're kind of like starting something more ground up, it seems like. But like, correct me if I'm wrong.
I would say that if you were to choose this one, don't like lock yourself into the mindset of like we've got to build new stuff. Like everything, right? Everything's open in design. So, you could say, oh, actually, there are things we could do about the existing product.
Mm.
Like the issue description. Maybe there's something to do there. There would be opportunities to iterate on existing functionality in this one as well, I think.
Okay, for sure. Thank you for the clarification.
And our last slide is like a question slide. So on the projects in general, like, can we be shown a demo on how the current auto DevOps and like the content navigator works?
Yeah, so we have a pipeline editor. That's one of our feature that is under the build, navigation, and pipeline editor. So you can definitely see that. But this is not a like visual editor, it's just a web editor. So my proposal was actually just creating a new feature on top of the existing feature. So long question short, for now we don't have demo, but just looking at the competitor side, there are lots of competitors who are doing a good job in this area. For example, JetBrains TeamCity is a good example so that you could look into.
And I think we already answered the second question, but like, is there existing research and usability testing for these two projects that like we can access?
Um, Whenever needed, as Chad mentioned, like any research data could be shared with you, but just specific about this project, like we don't have this research insight yet because it's a new feature. But it
Mhm.
was came out from the recent competitor evaluation for your information.
For the context, or however we want to look at it, we do have a good amount of user research around the summarizing of issues. It may not be as extended as we want it to be, but I think we do have some user research around summarizing issues, merge requests, and just that general path, that we can take a look at. And then Chad, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have some.
Yeah, I think so. The one of these three that is the most likely to have like this exact thing has had user research done about it, I would say is Auto DevOps because the nature of that project is basically like we've got this thing, but like try to iterate it on a bit and improve it. The other two are kind of sort of a new thing, so there's no direct research that's been done on like we want to solve this problem. What is it? But there is, I think, adjacent research or research that kind of crosses over it from other efforts within those areas that would be relevant. I have been working with our legal department to get like the boring paperwork stuff signed. I think that the final version got sent to somebody at Tufts today to sign. We can't share that stuff with you until that's squared away, but that should be quick. Last year it was like kind of a long process that Gina very valiantly fought her way through, and it took like a month or something to get all of that done. So we shouldn't have anything like that. Like by next week, it should be, we should be able to share that stuff with you. But just as a heads up, we can't do that right away.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. That's really helpful. And then our last question on the projects, I guess this would more apply to auto DevOps since like the content navigator, like there's no existing like version of it. But in terms of like auto DevOps, is there like a certain way templates are recommended? Like, is there any personalization to those?
That's a good question. I don't personally know. Um, that could be a good question to bring to Victor. And I don't, yeah, I don't know, basically.
Okay. And then we have like three more general questions. In terms on your end, like what are your expectations on the final design deliverables? Like what fidelity of designs would you want? Is it just wireframe or higher fidelity? And then what other like additional handoff documentation would you be expecting?
Sure. So I think there's kind of two different angles to look at it from our perspective specifically. We want to do two things. The first and most important is we want to help you do your best work that like gets you a good grade and makes you look good when you include this in your portfolio to go get a job later. So like, like the deliverable there is just like we just want to iterate with you on what you're doing. Like we will give you feedback. We're going to try to be, open and honest and egoless about it. Whatever you give us is like bonus for us, right? Like the deliverables you have ultimately are to Linda. But the second thing to consider is like the more evidence-backed and practicable the solution that you present to us is, the more likely it is to actually make it into the product. So I think that, like fidelity of designs or whatever, that's more, I think, a concern of like it makes you look good, it whatever. I think that like if it's clear what the problem is you're solving and it's clear from research that you have a good solution to it and the solution is something that we see a path towards, I think that's what helps us actually get it into the product later. But that's like a bonus. So I would say in terms of your interactions with us, don't worry so much about like you owe us this or that. We're here to help you do your work, and you owe all of that stuff or whatever to Linda. It's my goal to help you look good, basically. I want you to come out of this with like a strong story and a great looking presentation.
That's beautiful. Like, thank you.
Yeah. And I don't know if I don't know if Gina, if there's anything that I'm like missing in that or
No, I don't think so. I think you hit it spot on.
Um,
uh in terms of your next question, access to design system stuff.
mhm.
I will get you invited to a project in Figma and then figure out how I can get you access to our Figma design system. We do also have public facing documentation about our design system. So that will probably be a good resource for you. I can link to that. Um, in terms of existing research, yeah, whatever area you're going to work in, I will connect you with the user researcher who owns that area of the product. They will be able to speak to what extant research there is much better than I can. And then I think it's going to be like they're going to share, um, you know, like assets with you about that. It could be in the form of Google Docs. It will probably be, oh, why am I blanking on the name? The platform that we use for analyzing user research that I was
Dovetail.
using yesterday. Dovetail, thank you. Um, it'll probably be some stuff in Dovetail as well. I think again, kind of related to the last question, the goal is to like get you the information that you need, but also to try to like give you kind of an insight into like what that process is like, the tools that we use, let you use those tools, that kind of thing.
Sounds good. Um, and that as for like who do we report directly to? Is it to you, Chad?
You report to yourselves. I mean, we are advising you,
Yeah.
it is kind of like there's like an awkward kind of duality to it because like we're kind of just here to advise you to like facilitate you, like unblock you to do your best work. But like because the project is within our product, like in a way we are sort of your client, but like I really wouldn't worry about that. Like this thing being something that we can actually build is like bonus at the end of this. That's not the point. The point is for you to do a good project, for you to learn and have like a good presentation and whatever. Because like, even if you're like, oh my God, this doesn't work at all, at the end, if you have really clear reasons for like we figured out why it doesn't work or whatever, then the project is still a success. You know what I mean? So um I would say that like, yeah, you don't report to us. We're advisors to you. But you can reach us, in the Slack channel. And we'll do what we can to help you out.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. So we have a couple next steps that we want to like let you guys know. And so we'll be selecting the project, so we'll be deciding between the two by this Wednesday, which is our next meeting, where we'll define the scope possibly and kind of write a short proposal. And we may be starting the research and like kind of diving deeper into the problem, understanding the users, and then kind of starting the whole research process once we have decided our scope.
Cool. Um, any other, I don't know, questions or whatever that are not in your slide deck?
Yeah, I don't think we had any other questions. I think if anything, like if you guys had any questions for us or maybe I guess like I know we had our outlined like next steps, but if you happen to have like any suggestions for next steps for us, like that would also be appreciated. But if you guys had any comments or anything,
I
that
mean,
totally makes
based on this slide deck, I get the impression that you are a very self-starting, very organized group. So like I'm getting the impression that we're not going to need to do much in the way of like saying, hey, maybe you should set a deadline for yourselves for this or that. It seems like you've got that on lock. So that's great, actually. Thank you for that, for taking that off of our plate. I think your next steps are very reasonable. Yeah, pick a project and then like start learning about it. Let us know. You don't need to like wait until our next call to let us know. If you decide sooner than that, let us know in the Slack channel because then we can start connecting you to the people on our end who are relevant resources for you. Um, I think maybe the only other like question that I have for you is a few of you mentioned kind of some things you're interested in learning from this, but I do think that like if there are specific skills or whatever that any of you want to make sure you get a chance to practice and show that you've done through this project, think about it and let us know so that we can find ways to make sure you're able to get that experience. Like the whole point of this thing is for you to like, kind of do like a dress rehearsal of like real life in this job and like to come up with some great assets for like when you're going out to get a job and whatever. So like let us know what opportunities we can make sure we open up for you.
I do want to add one thing is don't let DevOps and just kind of like what GitLab does intimidate you a little bit. I know it's very developer heavy. Obviously, that is kind of our bread and butter at GitLab. We're very passionate about enabling developers to do the best work that they do and to making sure that organizations have the right tools. I can give you the whole sales pitch, right? But kind of dig into some of the terminology and the ideology behind DevOps as to like what is the true problem that GitLab is solving in the space, but don't let it intimidate you. As in, like a lot of the words are probably just you'll have a mental pattern for them already. They're probably just phrased a little bit differently on the DevOps side. And feel free to ask us what these things mean, right? So it's like, what is a CI pipeline? We're happy to explain that. And like you asked for demos, we have walkthroughs. I posted a few from our DevRel space, which are developer relations space. They are also really active on YouTube. So we have so many YouTube videos. We're also very open and transparent on GitLab Unfiltered. I mean, you can watch like all of our team's meetings if you ever want to. Please don't. But don't be afraid to ask the DevOps engineering dev questions, if that makes sense.
Yeah, can I ask a quick question about the pipeline? Like, I've been trying to process and understand like how kind of the pipeline works, and maybe like um if you could like explain briefly about like how maybe what it how it looks like and how it actually works. Um yeah.
I could show you what it looks like as a developer, as someone who uses it, who's not a person who works on it. Let me share my screen and make sure that what I'm sharing is not something sensitive. Yeah, that should be okay. Okay. This is a list of like merge requests that I have open right now. So they're like code changes that I've made locally that I've like pushed to a feature branch on remote on our hosted GitLab instance, and that I'm like basically requesting to merge into, the main branch. Um, if I go into one of these, oh, actually, well, you can kind of see here that like there's a status going on over there. That is the pipe, like the most recent pipeline status. So this one had a pipeline running last time I loaded this page. It may actually be done now. This has succeeded. These two have failed. These are drafts, so that makes sense. The tests aren't updated for those. If I click into one of these, there's a pipelines tab on an MR that shows all of the pipelines that have run. The pipelines can have different stages. This is all configured via those YAML or TOML files. So this is like, I didn't set any of that up. It's just happening on my code. I'm experiencing this as like the pipeline's already been established. And there are different stages and different jobs within the stages. So like here you can see this stage is called pre-build. It's only got one thing. This stage has a couple different things that run. And I think that if I go, no, I'm not an administrator of this project, so I'm not allowed to go edit it. But if I show you my local development instance, so this is not GitLab. This is a version of the GitLab app that's running on my computer. Let me just refresh the page. Sorry, that little maneuver is going to cost us a couple of years. Okay. These are the pipelines that have run in this project. If I go into settings, I can actually go into CI/CD settings, and this is the stuff that Sunjung works on once it loads. Is So here's auto DevOps. I don't have it turned on. But you can set up your pipelines somewhere in here. I've never actually done it, so this is the part where I'd be like, I don't know. But as a user, it's basically like you seeing it run against your stuff.
Chad, I think you can still go to the build pipeline editor and then show some YAML file there. So basically what each pipeline could does. So let's say you're a developer and you're building an app, and every time you are publishing something to the production that is actually user facing, like you don't want to make any mistake, right? And you really want to ensure that like, okay, like I'm not breaking anything in the actual production app. So for example, if that's the case, let's add some test job in this pipeline. So whenever each developers are pushing some changes, then we run the same test. So like once Gina pushed something as a developer to the production, then same test runs in the pipeline and it applies to all the developers. So it kind of like helps emotionally and mentally that, okay, so we have passed the test job. So if we see this green status mark here, then okay, so it's safe. So it goes to the production without any issue. So there could be multiple job inside. Yeah, Chad, you can also walk you through the YAML file a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a kind of a fakey fake one I have on my local, like, because I don't actually have, this is like kind of a fake project and it doesn't actually have test suites to run that sort of thing. So it's just kind of running through the motions. I set it up months ago just because I wanted to make some like UI changes related to pipeline statuses. So I needed to have pipelines that had run. But you can see the YAML has like different stages. Those were the separate, the separate things that you saw. And then inside of the stages, you can like run different things. So each job has a stage that's specified for it, and then it's got a script where it's literally just running bash for each entry you run. So here I'm just echoing something because it's faked. And then I like make something that runs for a little bit. But a real one like this, we can go look at the .gitlab file for our actual real product. Um, like this is a real and probably quite complex one. So this is like 300 lines long. It's got a lot of stuff in it, and this is edited by hand. So this is the stuff for like a visual CI pipeline builder, where like having a way of like a GUI where you could make this stuff happen. Obviously, you would need to edit some data at points, but like the pipeline part, the plumbing part, for someone who doesn't know YAML, could be a bit easier for them to put together.
Chad, can I add another analogy?
Mhm.
All right. So think about contributing to like Google Docs, right? So there's spell check that happens in the background. There's saving that happens in the in the background, grammar. Everybody's contributing. So there's a lot of background jobs that are happening. Think of this as we all have one Google Doc that's GitLab, and everyone's constantly contributing, but we don't trust everyone to follow all the rules. So we have standards in place that say, for instance, if I'm writing a new page in our handbook, it needs to follow a specific standard of text, like how I bullet things or how I embed videos. And let's say I do it incorrectly. The pipeline's going to fail and be like, hey, go fix it. So it's this automated way to tell somebody who's trying to merge something in our huge Google Doc that something is wrong with the code that I'm trying to merge. And that's what a pipeline is. It has multiple steps and it'll tell you, hey, this job failed, go fix it. So it's easy. Yep, there it is. So you can see this huge merge request with all of these stages, jobs, but it's a way for us to make sure that we have quality code in GitLab and that everything is not going to break. Like a small change isn't just going to break a lot of things because we have so many dependencies. So kind of extrapolate the Google Docs model into a huge software repository that everyone's trying to contribute to very quickly.
There are also some parts of pipeline that do other fun stuff, like build and deploy things automatically based on code changes when tests pass, or like update a GitLab Pages site. It's not all just running tests. Some of it is actually building stuff, pushing it to an environment. Um, and it's all stuff that in the past people had to like do manually and either trust that someone did it or like just be the expert who does it. And like if that person's out sick, then well, that's not happening today, kind of thing.
Yeah, very painful in the
I'm
past.
actually surprised that I haven't found one yet where I've got like actual errors that needed to be corrected. I'm sure that one of these I messed something up and had to fix it. Um, yeah, okay. So here's a good example, where like I had some tests that actually failed. So we also give users access to the actual logged output of those like bash commands that they're running in a scripted way, to so that they can see what happened. Because if you were just doing this on your computer, then all of this stuff would scroll by in the terminal. So we're giving them basically scroll back on the terminal of the remote machine where their stuff was running in automation. so that when something goes wrong, you can look through this and see what happened. And then we also have like some troubleshooting functionality for that, where like our like AI can like read through the logs and then tell you, oh, it looks like this was the problem. Oh, I
Yeah.
can't hear you,
Thank you so
Julia. I'm not
much.
sure why. You're
Does
not.
that help? Also, yeah, does that help with kind of visualizing like what a pipeline is? I think of it as like the assembly line before you release or deploy, and then they're driven by logic. So basically, it's like if there isn't the word the, I'm not saying this is one of ours, but then like reject, make sure they actually put the word the. Or the one that gets me sometimes is I tend to capitalize a lot of things. And then we have a rule in our docs that say, hey, don't capitalize the heading all the time, and it'll fail for me. So that was a fun thing that I had to do this past week, just kind of battle with the thing that I knew about. But that's why the pipelines are there. They're there to help you and guide you because you can't remember everything.
Yeah, thank you so much for explaining. It's like a lot easier to understand now that I've seen the demo.
Um,
Yeah. I feel like if you go through the process of actually like merging something, you'll see them and then be like, oh, okay. You see it pass and you get that fun sense of satisfaction as well.
Yeah, I do think that if you are not familiar at like kind of like a casual level with Git as a technology, I would recommend like I think we probably have videos on our YouTube channel explaining what it is, because just at a very high level, knowing kind of like broadly how it works, I think will help a lot. Like you don't need to like become an expert and like like contribute to our code base or anything like that. But I think that if you like kind of get like this is how Git works and this is like the way that like on the remote side GitLab does these things with it, then that will probably kind of help give you some grounding context.
yeah, if you guys can send us like some types of documents that can help us getting to know this features better, then that would be really great.
And then I had a clarifying question. So so now like having walked through like the pipeline and CI pipeline, I'm wondering like compared to then the auto DevOps project, like the way I'm understanding it is that like CI pipelines, they're a part of just like regular DevOps operation or like the system, right? But then so it's kind of so but then auto DevOps, it's just an automated way to do the whole process entirely. Like is my understanding correct or okay.
Yeah. So like the projects that Chad was walking us through, um, people from our team have literally written the CI YAML files for that and all the code and determined what DevOps, like what pipeline runs best with the code and with the app that we want to develop, which is GitLab. But auto DevOps is supposed to help you do that kind of like without thinking. So automatically it will detect what your code is and then deploy the app for you. Um, right, I can show you just really quickly the only part that I'm familiar with, which is this one area in settings, which I probably shouldn't do in the product project, but this is like when you're in a project, we were just looking at our pipeline editor at that point. So I don't even know if there's a pipeline set up. There is. But for this one, auto DevOps is, I don't think is on because it's not clicked. So if I were to check this box, then it would automatically run auto DevOps if there's no CI file that's already written. But since there is a CI file written, it's not going to do anything as far as I understand.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just to add to that a little bit. So think of when we talked about those step-by-step instructions that we would write. Auto DevOps does it for you. So think of them as already like predefined, quick getting started. Uh, whether it's we have some defaults instead like we're using industry standards. It's out of the box functionality that you can just say, yep, enable it, and you get pipelines instead of actually having to go into the file and say, all right, so please stop the pipeline and fail the job if this happens, which a lot of companies love that control, ours, us included. But if, let's say, you're starting a personal project, you don't want to get into the weeds of, all right, let me configure this file so that I know these pipelines are running. Auto DevOps does that for you. It's really easy configuration to get started and get going and have pipelines where you're not deploying like easily traceable bad code. Extensible defaults.
Okay. Yeah, that definitely makes a lot more sense. Thanks. And then I don't know if Delia, you had a question. I don't know if you want to type it in the chat at all, but I just also I'm like, I don't want to overlook.
I
Okay.
I just shared this very old blog article, but I think it captures this because it's 101. So you can still like go
Mhm.
through this blog post and then there's also video. I'm not so sure, like, oh, looks like it's Victor. So
No, yeah.
probably it should be still valid.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
Did you have a question? Sorry, your mic is still not working, I think.
No, you should type it in the chat if you're able
Yeah.
to.
Oh, you just did. What's the difference between CI and CD pipelines? Uh, I think that they're kind of just two different flavors. So CI/CD means continuous integration and continuous deployment. So the integration part is like building and testing, and the deployment part is deploying. So they're kind of all one thing. I think there are like historical reasons in the industry that this name exists because I think it used to just be called CI, and then CD got added on later, and I think that everybody started calling it both. Is that accurate, Gina and Sunjun?
That aligns with my understanding. How about you, Gina?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't here before CI/CD was a thing. But yeah, whenever I hear CI, it's typically just about like the testing, specifically, usually the testing features, and then, like Chad said, the building stuff as well. So I guess if we're looking at comparing it back to the pipeline that we were just looking at, it would really, CI would include like the stages that were within the test jobs, I guess, would be there, and then build jobs, and then the CD portion would just be the deploy stage. So everything that's like deploying the application.
Yeah, and that part you won't see on a merge request like mine. That part is a pipeline that you would see running on like the main branch of a repository generally. Although there might be some CD stuff about like pushing to like a test environment or that sort of thing for a feature branch.
Yep.
But yeah, it's so I think it just like comes from very old marketing.
I would also say, as somebody who has been here, not in GitLab, but before the CI/CD phase started. So think about back in the day, we would have to manually release things. We would manually publish. We would have to want to control all of that process. But this is a way for when CD or continuous deployment came in, we were able to just do it continuously and add it to production versus having to manually push it every single time. So this is a way to guarantee that the code is passing all the tests and getting to the user as fast as possible without any mistakes.
If we don't have anything else, then we could end a little bit early.
I have a last question.
Yeah,
Um, so this is not really related, but just out of curiosity, how do you guys approach like designing for these technical stuff when you guys like first started?
we're gonna need another hour. Uh, I think that Dasha's point about like not letting the technical nature of the work our users do intimidate you is very important because they are people who are trying to do concrete tasks. And if you focus on like what is the problem the user has or what is the thing the user is trying to accomplish and what is the right most effective way of giving them the tools they need to accomplish that, then the fact that they're doing something really technical kind of doesn't matter. Like you don't need to know everything about what they do. You don't need to be an expert in their field. You need to be someone who has a good understanding of the problems that they're facing when they're using the product and the way that the product can like help them to do their job. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's also good that you're not starting from scratch with this, which helps, I think, because there is extant research. We do have a design system. You can like ask us for advice, give us things to give you feedback on. We can connect you to other people who work here who can do the same sort of thing. Um, so yeah, I think just like focusing on like the problem to be solved and whether or not the solution that you have in mind is like going to work well for it is what should guide you through.
Yeah, thank you so much.
One other thing I wanted to offer everyone.
Pros.
Try it out and try to understand how I would even use pipelines, to commit code in general, like I'd get a better understanding of it. But also, you could ask one of us, and we could either meet with you or connect you with somebody else to just show you how we use GitLab, like show you how we use the pipeline. And if seeing that would help you kind of like understand the concept more, you could ask questions while we do it. Just let us know. We're around, or we could even record a video for you, whatever it happens to be, if we're not able to find the time to sync.
That's totally awesome. Thank you.
All right. Well, I think we've done it. I think we have kicked it off. So between now and the end of our check-in on Wednesday, I'll expect that you all will be sharing with us like what direction you're going, and we'll help connect you to some resources related to that. And excited to see where you're going and what you end up doing.
Yes, thanks so much for all the comments and resources and stuff.
All right. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you.
Yes.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Nice meeting you.
Good
Thanks,
meeting you.
Nice
bye.
meeting you.
Nice meeting you.